It's a warm welcome here in our studio in Sarakunda. This is Star TV News, and I am Emily Fadera. In the headlines tonight, President Barrow calls for sharper focus on ECOWAS protocols. Government steps up preparation ahead of Erdogan's visit on Monday, as Foreign Ministry says visit will facilitate a review of Gambia-Turkey relations. 7 drug traffickers within West Coast region arrested. Victims hopes the RRC recommendations won't be tampered with. On the international scene, on South Africa baby deaths, parents say hospital hiding information. Ivory Coast demolition of Sante town near airport cleared. African foreign ministers meet in Algeria over Libya conflict. Those were the headlines, and now the news in details. In opening the parliamentary seminar on the evaluation of the 4th legislature of the ECOWAS Parliament in Banjul on Thursday, 23 January 2020, His Excellency President Adama Barrow has called for sharper focus on implementing ECOWAS protocols. Ajakadi Sanyang reports.
The sub-regional parliamentarians are meeting in Banjul with special focus on the implementation of the strategic plan and the supplementary act on the enhancement of powers of the ECOWAS Parliament. President Barrow told the parliamentarians that the meeting was an important one, as it was organized to evaluate the 4th legislature of the ECOWAS Parliament. All processes relating to the improvement of the governance system of the ECOWAS institutions should be oriented towards efficient management of regional cooperation and integration programs. He told them, noting that institutional capacity is another major driver of regional integration. The Gambian leaders said the meeting was relevant and timely as representatives of the citizens of the sub-region gathered to review and evaluate their performance. They are also reviewing the implementation status of the ideals and goals of integrating the economies and peoples of the region as envisioned by the founding fathers of the organization. Such is particularly critical, especially as the vision and emphasis of the community is shifting from an ECOWAS of states to an ECOWAS of peoples. With this in view, all the programs and activities of the community should be people-centered. For this reason, it is most fitting for you to evaluate the progress towards ensuring that the people of the community enjoy and appreciate the benefits of sub-regional integration, he added. The outgoing Speaker of the ECOWAS Parliament, Honorable Mustafa Cicelo, said the event is an opportunity for the body to congratulate the Gambia on its commitment to democracy, peace and good governance since President Barrow's ascension to presidency. They commend the efforts that President Barrow made to ensure and accelerate the harmonious development of the Gambia in peace and in restoration of effective democracy. For Star TV News, Ajakadi Sanya.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Thursday announced the visit to the Gambia of the President of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Mr. Erdogan will pay a day visit to the Gambia on 27 January 2020. It will be the first time a Turkish president is visiting the country. Sena Bujase files in this report.
A statement from Foreign Affairs said, the purpose of the visit is to facilitate a review of the bilateral relationship between the two countries and to map out ways of strengthening collaboration relative to development cooperation at the bilateral and multilateral level. During the visit by President Adama Barrow to Turkey in February 2018, the two countries signed various bilateral agreements, protocols, and memorandums of understanding. Since that fruitful visit, Bilateral cooperation between the two countries has been more comprehensive, involving commercial, educational, economic, health, and security sectors, just to name a few. The Gambia and Turkey have enjoyed excellent bilateral relations dating back to 1965 following the country's attainment of independence, and have been collaborating closely at the United States, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and other international fora. Seinabu Jase, Star TV News.
The Drug Law Enforcement Agency West Coast Region this morning engaged the media of future cases of persons arrested with suspected drugs. The Drug Law Enforcement Agency West Coast Region engages in operational activities to map out the routes used by drug traffickers and smugglers within West Coast Region in the past week that resulted to the arrest of the many suspected drug traffickers within the region. Dada Cham was there and she now files in this report.
According to the presentation by personnel of the West Coast Region Agency, the suspects are Dauda Dabo of Manduar, Usman Seidi of Birkama Santusu, Usman Sanyang of Jalakutub village, and Ismail Akor of Kololi. At Nordbang region, they arrested Omar Jawa of Farafanye Muhtani and Lamin Sow of Farafanye. The total grand seizure of the substances found with the suspects is 214 bundles of cannabis, which is a total of 218 kilograms, 556 grams. At the Joint Operations Center at Gunjur Beach, West Coast Region, Drug Law Enforcement Agency operative within West Coast Region also embarked on an operation at the Gunjur Beach in Combo South on the 23rd of January 2020, targeting Gunjur Beach, where reports source of rampant abuse of illicit drugs which usually occur at the side beach. Mr. Bakari Juba, head of the operation of West Coast Region, and Sibanor said investigation is ongoing of the cases, after which the suspects will appear before the court of law. Mr. Juba urged the people of the Gambia to stop all engagements of drugs and that the public should report any suspect person within the society. Reporting for Star TV News, I am Dado Cham.
The son of the late Sheikh Sharif Muhyiddin Haidara, former Caliph General of Dasilame Sangajor in Funi, has expressed doubt and worry about the fair implementation of the recommendations that will emerge from the Truth Commission. The Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission (TRRC) will compile its findings in an exclusive report that will include recommendations and submit it to the government for implementation. Our TRRC reporter Seinabu Jasi files in this report.
Abbas Muhyiddin Haidara was testifying at the TRRC on Thursday as the eldest son, where he narrated the ordeals his father experienced as a victim of ex-president Yahya Jammeh. I have been following the TRRC proceeding for over a year and I trust your work, but I am doubtful about the conclusion of the process. We all saw that there was a Jammeh commission that concluded recently, and it was like they sieved the outcome. The ones they wanted punished were punished and the others were protected. If the same thing happens here, no victim will like that. Your job is to reconcile people, but if that fails, the end of the process will not be pleasant. I appeal to the government and the National Assembly to consider that very well, he stated. In 2014, his father was arrested and subjected to lengthy court trial before being acquitted the following year for defying Jammeh's order. Precisely July 28, 2014, which fell on Muslim feast Eid al-Fitr, commonly called Korite, Jammeh instructed his Interior Minister Usman Sonko to arrest any imam in the country who observed the feast the following day. This order came as a response to the request made by the official of Gambia Supreme Islamic Council for him to intervene to ensure that everyone observes the feast the same day. According to the council's president, Mohamed Lamin Toure, in a televised address during a courtesy call on Jammeh, they have tried their best but could not succeed in ensuring that the whole country observed the Eid same day. However, the Caliph General in Sangajor in Fonyi decided to defy that order, and he led a congregation in his village the following day. He was arrested by the police shortly afterwards. He was taken to Buyam police station before being transferred to the Sibanor station, where he spent the night. The next day, he was moved to Yundum police station and later taken to the Supreme Islamic Council headquarters in Kanifing, only to be paraded and asked to accept publicly that his conduct was wrong. I had Imam Abdullah Fati telling my father that Jammeh did not arrest him, but they did. Abbas told the TRRC. Seinabu Jase, Star TV News.
Star TV has revisited the military life of an aspiring president of the Gambia, General Lamin Bojang, and leader of Gambia Action Party, GAP. At some point, he was stationed at the State House as a senior security officer, protecting Yahya Jammeh, the former president, who is accused of several human rights abuses, such as extrajudicial killings and maiming, inflicting severe torture on perceived enemies, subjecting people to disappearance without trace, as well as sexual offenses, including rape against women. Ajaka Disanyang reports.
General Bojang has disassociated himself from these alleged conducts and indicated that his mission in the army was to use his already established leadership skills in the medical field to change the attitude in the army. Measuring his achievements in that regard, he believes that he has effected several positive changes, including the protection of lives of the Gambians. Meanwhile, he also gave his assessment on the 3-year so far administration of President Adama Barrow. To him, the government has failed to implement its plans it had shared during the campaigns, while lambasting the entire leaders of the coalition 2016 for lack of foresightedness. He accused each of them as not trustworthy. Bojang, who also served this present government as the deputy head of mission in Russia, shared his party's agenda for the country if they are elected in the areas of boosting the poor electricity, dilapidated health services, agricultural mechanization strategy, as well as youth empowerment. Given the status quo of the security sector reforms SSR, he stated that the process has failed due to the way issues have been taken, including the idea of downsizing the army. For the economic's continuous existence in the country, he suggested that Barrow should have done better in winning the trust of Gambia Armed Forces and ends the service of the regional forces. For Star TV News, Ajaka Disanya.
We are now going for a short break and we'll be back with the international news. Welcome back after that short commercial break, and now the news beyond our borders. Grieving parents in South Africa's largest city are accusing hospital managers of hiding information about the deaths of their newborn babies. The hospital in Johannesburg blames drug-resistant bacteria. Government critics say the maternity deaths highlight underfunding in the public healthcare system. Al Jazeera's Haru Mutasa reports.
Tembi is not her real name, and she doesn't want to show her face because she's afraid she'll get into trouble for complaining. Reading this newspaper article has made her angry because it could explain why her newborn baby died. At least 10 babies have died in the same hospital in Tembisa Township in Johannesburg in the past 2 months. The government blames drug-resistant bacteria.
I think it's more than that. It's more than 10 babies. The Tembisa hospital is hiding information. Because if they're hiding information from us, like to what was happening with our babies, the only thing that we knew is our babies are sick.
The cause of the infection isn't clear. Doctors say it can lead to pneumonia and meningitis. Some South Africans blame hospital overcrowding, understaffing and poor hygiene. Health department managers admit employing more nurses and doctors could help prevent more deaths, but there are other issues.
The problems that we're dealing with is issues relating to resistance to antibiotics. Because when we use antibiotics, we don't finish the course. We use antibiotics that are not prescribed, or doctors prescribe antibiotics for any other reason. It leads to our bacteria not being able to respond to these antibiotics, which is a big problem.
Africa's most industrialized economy is struggling to provide affordable quality healthcare for the majority who are poor. In some neighborhoods, private clinics try to ease the burden if patients can afford to pay to avoid the long queues. but there aren't enough private clinics to substitute overstretched and ill-equipped state-run hospitals. The government wants to introduce a national health insurance scheme to try and close the gap between the rich and the poor. At the moment, only a privileged few receive world-class care at private hospitals, while millions of mainly poor black South Africans have to rely on understaffed and overcrowded public health facilities. The proposed insurance scheme bill still needs to be debated in Parliament. If it becomes law, the state will control how much private health facilities charge, making it more affordable for the poor. Tax rises will be needed to pay for the scheme, but some economists say the country's struggling economy can't afford it. The ruling African National Congress says universal health insurance is the solution, but the mothers who recently lost their babies say it's too late for them.
No, I don't see myself going back there, ever.
Harumutasa, Al Jazeera.
The Ivory Coast government has ordered the demolition of houses it says lies too close to the airport near the commercial capital Abidjan. Tens of thousands of people live in the area, but the government says their homes are illegal and pose a safety risk. But they say they have been targeted because they are poor. Al Jazeera's Laura Bodin mainly reports.
A desperate and futile scramble to save their homes. Within a few hours, nothing but debris. People try to salvage what little is left. To the authorities, these makeshift houses were built illegally. But for the people here, this was home, and many don't know where to go. These men are asking, why did they do this? Where will they sleep? What kind of country is this where those with air-conditioned homes are destroying poor people's homes? But for some, it's also their livelihoods.
We were able to evacuate those few chickens, but many died. They surprised us and started to demolish. They broke everything.
This was once part of a labyrinth of homes that housed tens of thousands. It's situated on the outskirts of Abidjan International Airport. That's where, earlier this month, teenager Laurent Barthélemy hid in the landing gear on an Air France flight. His lifeless body was found by flight officials in Paris. Believing Barthélemy had hidden in the shantytown before jumping the fence onto the runway, the government ordered the Adjoufu neighbourhood evacuated to clear a 200-metre safety zone. Communications Minister Sidi Touré said these occupations pose air safety and security problems. And while most of the people living here were given 45 days to leave, many were shocked when the first diggers rolled in this week.
I was born here. I've been here nearly 40 years. Even the mosque was destroyed. We said at least leave the mosque, but they destroyed everything. We got what we could from our homes.
Residents say the government is not dealing with the crux of the issue: the high cost of living in a country where almost half of the population lives in poverty. And it's poverty, they say, that led to the teenage boys' escape and them having no choice but to live near the airport. Now, many have nowhere to go. Laura Burden-Manley, Al Jazeera.
Foreign ministers from nations bordering Libya have been meeting in Algeria to discuss ways of stopping the fighting there. Egypt, Sudan and Tunisia are among the countries that have been affected by the Libyan conflict, but the temporary ceasefire is shaky and Libya's warring parties have already met in Berlin, with another meeting planned later in Geneva. Al Jazeera's Tony Betley reports from Tripoli.
At the meeting in the Algerian capital, Libya's neighbours renewed their support for the enforcement of an arms embargo and called for an end to foreign involvement in the conflict.
We agreed on many principles. The only solution for the Libyan crisis is a peaceful solution, a political solution. The solution must be a Libyan solution with support from the international community.
Libya's internationally recognised government and political experts say that support is vital and the only way a lasting peace can be achieved. But they're disappointed there has not been greater international pressure against the United Arab Emirates in particular, which they say is supporting Haftar with arms and finance.
We are surprising because the international community cannot squeeze or cannot pressure Emirates as we expect. I don't know why.
You can't guess why.
Why? Because the money? Yes. Maybe because the money.
Warlord Khalifa Haftar's forces controlled 2/3 of the country. For the last 9 months, they've pounded the suburbs of Tripoli with rocket and shell fire, trying to capture the capital. There has been an uneasy ceasefire for the last 10 days, but there has been violations in the south of Tripoli. The capital's main Mitiga airport was closed after the government said it was hit by 6 rockets, and an unmanned drone was destroyed. Both sides claimed they had shot it down. Haftar's forces are blockading oil ports, bringing Libya's lifeblood industry to a virtual standstill. As oil output plummets, the cost to the economy soars, at least $77 million a day. But the lost revenue will also hurt Haftar's side.
It's already hurting because the gas will deplete from Benghazi, electricity will go off, and I don't think they will be able to hold on for a long time.
Haftar's forces continue to receive their salaries from the central bank in Tripoli, one of the many ironies in this complicated conflict. First the Berlin conference and now the Algerian conference, and on the 27th of this month there's going to be another conference in Geneva. The Libyan people have heard a lot of talk about ways to end this conflict, but what they haven't heard are concrete measures about actually how to do so. Most Libyans are concerned with security and day-to-day living, including the price of food and medicine.
It's the same old story. In Berlin or Moscow they talk, but in Libya people are dying.
Moise just wants to go back home. He fled with his wife and 2 children when his home in South Tripoli was destroyed by shelling. Home now is in a school.
Life is hard here. We have very little, and our home was destroyed. It's not safe to go back. We just want the war to end.
He is one of 146,000 people who've been displaced in this conflict. The hope is there won't be any more, but in Libya there are no guarantees. Tony Bertley, Al Jazeera, Tripoli.
China is taking drastic measures to contain the outbreak of a deadly new virus as tens of millions prepare to travel from the Lunar New Year. The first 2 dates have been announced outside Hubei province, the epicenter of the virus, and as the death toll climbs, more cities are moving to shut down their public transport services, affecting more than 40 million people. Al Jazeera's Scott Headler reports from Beijing.
Rushing to catch the last trains before the Lunar New Year, many of these passengers at the Beijing West Railway Station are thinking of the coronavirus.
I don't think this virus has been properly controlled. I just came back to China. I read a lot of news on the internet. I'm not very satisfied with how the government prevented and controlled the disease. I'm very afraid of getting infected.
I am really afraid of those people who lived and left Wuhan. But I do hope the situation in Wuhan can be improved soon.
And those inside the city of Wuhan are becoming more frustrated because medical supplies are running short and hospitals are short-staffed. Many festivals for the Lunar New Year holiday have been canceled across China, and not just in the central Hubei province, the epicenter of the virus.
In a rare move, the government has closed the Forbidden City here in Beijing over health concerns related to the coronavirus, something they didn't do some 17 years ago during the SARS crisis.
The Chinese government was criticized for the way it handled the SARS virus back in 2003, mainly for its lack of transparency. The World Health Organization has decided not to declare the current outbreak a global health emergency. But there's growing concern over the coming week when the millions of people who have traveled for the holiday return. Again, raising the risk the virus may be spread further by people who are contaminated but have yet to show symptoms. Scott Heidler, Al Jazeera, Beijing.
And before we end the news, a recap of our main headlines. President Barrow calls for sharper focus on ECOWAS protocols. Government steps up preparation ahead of Erdogan's visit on Monday, as Foreign Ministry says visit will facilitate a review of Gambia-Turkey relations. 7 drug traffickers within West Coast region arrested. Victims hope TRRC recommendations won't be tampered with. Well, that's all for this edition of the news. Please enjoy the rest of our programs and join us tomorrow for more news. Thank you.